Welcome to West Country Wanderings and welcome to part 12 of my Stroudwater and Thames Severn Canals update. The Cotswold Canals, of course. I'm currently standing on Westfield Bridge. The lock beneath me is currently undergoing much restoration and there's a ton of activity happening in the fields behind me between here and the M5, between Bristol and Gloucester. So we're on the Stroudwater part of the Cotswold Canals restoration project, and between here and the roundabout of Whitminster on the A38, it is known as the Missing Mile. Another interesting thing to note about the bridge that I was standing on, this was down for demolition once the Stroudwater Canal was abandoned. I think it was around the 1950s that they tried to destroy it. But the local landowner's daughter apparently stood on the top of the bridge where I am now and refused to budge so the bridge could not be demolished. So what's going to be happening in this update number 12 here on West Country Wanderings? Well, I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about the lock here at Westfield and just show you in more detail the restoration works has taken place. Also, we'll have a look at what's been happening over the fields there. Now, proper construction is due to start in the springtime, just literally a couple of months away. And I'll be bringing you all the updates on that as it progresses right here on West Country Wanderings, of course. Also in today's update, there's part of the Thames Severn Canal which we've not yet explored, and that's the section that runs east from the Coats Portal of the Sapperton Tunnel. If you remember, in part 11 of the update, I told you the story of the Sapperton Tunnel, gave you the history of that, and we finished the video there at Coats Portal. So we're going to be heading back over to the Coats Portal and then exploring what is of the canal, what it looks like now on the Thames Severn in an easterly direction from there. So this is Westfield Lock here. They've got some hear-us fencing at the moment to protect people from wandering in there and dropping down, because obviously there's a big drop down into the lock, and obviously there's lots of building materials going on. It dates from around 1775. It's 100 foot long and 18 foot deep. Now, the restoration of Westfield Lock started around October of last year of 2022, and work's been progressing over weekends to completely uncover, as you can see, and I'll give you some more shots in a minute, you can see all the work that the wonderful volunteers of the Cotswold Canals Trust have been doing on this project here at Westfield Lock. So from this angle you can see the lock that's been uncovered and the tremendous work that's been going on here. Also note that the Stroudwater Canal in the easterly direction from here is blocked. It's blocked because obviously there's a narrowing of the canal bed, and also there's a small footbridge which goes across. There's also a little leat or stream which comes off from the Chippenham Platt. Never sure which one it is because it seems to change depending which map or version of the map you look at. Just close to the A419, the link road that links the Easington roundabout to the M5 junction 13. You can see that they've also started to restore some of the brickwork on the left hand side there too, and obviously they're using the pipes there to take water out of the lock so they can get in it to restore it properly. Now, the volunteers that work for the Cotswold Canal Trust have done many lock restorations previously, including many in the Dubbridge area, the Ryford locks of course, so they got really good experience in doing this kind of work. Hoping to complete this year, 2023, and the entirety of the connection of the Stroudwater right through to Bowbridge in Stroud, all the way across Ryford, Ebley, and right over to Saul Junction should hopefully be complete by the end of 2025 or early 2026. So yeah, just a couple of years, and I hope to bring you a lot of those updates and work right here on West Country Wanderings. So it's an impressive site here at Westfield Lock. If you want to come and have a look for yourself, the best thing to do is come off the A419 at the Easington roundabout, so turn left before you head onto the connection road, heads down to the junction 13, and then immediately turn left which is in effect the old road of the A419 that runs parallel to the Stroudwater Canal, and you should hopefully be able to find some parking somewhere along there. Then cross over the road that goes to the village of Easington, and you'll come then to what's known as Dock Lock within just a couple of minutes walk. Keep going from there, and then you will soon find this bridge and all the restoration work that's been taking place here too. So just to the west of Westfield Lock and Westfield Bridge, there's lots of work taking place in the adjoining fields. So there's some more ubiquitous hear-us fencing again to prevent access into that while the construction work takes place. So there's lots going on here. Most of this bit behind me here is spoil somewhere. They dug the soil out of Westfield Lock to uncover it again. But the canal has obviously got to be redug back in to cross those fields, and then it's going to go on a diagonal route. If you have a look at my update number, I think it's perhaps 5, I'll drop it in below, where I walked up to the underpass underneath the M5, and parallel to it is the River Froome underpass, and they're going to be using the River Froome underpass because it's wider. You can have a towpath in there too to get this canal, the Stroudwater Canal, right underneath the M5, probably the biggest project of the entire bit to do to complete the missing mile, to connect this canal back up to Saul Junction. So Westfield Bridge is just here. That's the western portal, or western face of it if you like. Let's see if I can get another shot in so you can see what it looks like from that angle. The Stroudwater Canal obviously comes underneath now. Originally, before the M5 was built, it went on a straightish route right across this field here. Now, because the M5 is there, and it was built in this area around 73, 74, 75, that time of years, it can no longer do that, and it has to go now on a diagonal route to join up with the River Froome, which just lies down over this angle over here, and I'll insert a map so you can see what I'm talking about. And it's going to be using that route to get under the M5. Now, the Droitwich Canals project, and that reopened in 2011, I've done a couple of videos on that. They had a similar problem. The M5 was plonked across the Droitwich Canal in 1968 as it made its way south from the Worcestershire town of Bromsgrove. If you're not familiar with that, it connects the Worcester-Birmingham Canal to the navigable section of the River Severn, and obviously they wanted to completely reopen that. So what they did there, they put a newish bridge, but they also lowered the canal bed to enable the canal to pass under the M5. So similar kind of thing here. They're going to be utilising the existing bridge, and I said I have covered that walking up to those two bridges there because there's an underpass one which I think was used for cattle originally. I don't think it's used anymore. I'll put that in below, see if I've got a clip of that and insert that now so you can see what it looks like. But yeah, a lot of work's going to be taking place here over the next few months, and I'll bring it to you right here on West Country Wanderings. What we do now is go over to Brimscombe Port to bring you a short update on the work that's taking place there. So this is just a quick update at the Brimscombe Port site. Remember, Brimscombe Port, important transshipment point for the Thames Severn Canal and the Stroudwater. So Thames Severn, just to recap, and Stroudwater, they meet at Warbridge, right in the centre of Stroud, just a couple of miles towards the west of here. But here was a tremendous point for warehousing because you have the two different types of boats. You have the Severn Trows and the Thames barges. Of course, they had different dimensions, and this is where they went from the barges onto the Severn Trows because of the narrowness of the Stroudwater. This site is down to be completely redeveloped. If you go back to one of my earlier updates, let's see if I can find a clip of that, you'll see there was lots of old tacky warehousing from the 1960s. The site has been completely cleared now. However, we have come across a problem in terms of the restoration of this site. Stroud District Council gave the works to a company called St Molam. And actually, if you cast your mind back, I did a railway series video at Long Marston, where St Molam were one of the main developers of a new village there called Meon Vale, just to the south of Stratford-upon-Avon. That company, St Molam, have done many different works. They've done like warehousing, they've done housing developments all around Warwickshire, Worcestershire and Gloucestershire. and they've been bought by a company called BlackRock, who are an American concern. And of course, because they're an American concern, they don't have the first-hand knowledge of this part of the southern part of the Cotswolds. So there is a big question mark as to when and how this development is going to restart here at Brimscombe Port, and we're just waiting to see and hear what's going to be happening next. And I'll bring that to you in the next canal update right here on West Country Wanderings. So we're now going to continue our journey east from the town of Stroud to Tarleton Bridge, actually close to the Coats Portal, where I finished update number 11 telling you the story about the Sapperton Tunnel. If you've not checked that out, I'll put a link in for the description. And we're going to walk from the Tarleton Bridge to the summit of the Thames Severn Canal, where I'll tell you a little bit more about the Thames Head pumping station and also having a look at Coats Roundhouse, one of the 5 roundhouses on the TNS, the one we haven't yet seen here on West Country Wanderings. Now I'm back here on the King's Reach section of the Thames Severn Canal near the village of Coats, and it's called the King's Reach because of a visit that King George III had back in July of 1788, and he expressed both astonishment and delight at this beautiful section that you can see here because of the work, the progress. The portal of the Coats end of the Sapperton Tunnel is just through there, the other side of that fabulous Tarleton Road overbridge there. And he was really impressed with the engineering and the work of the canal navvies as they made their way, progressing, and also up to and including the portal as well. I don't think he had a trip into the tunnel because it wasn't finished at that point on his visit, but this is a beautiful wooded section here. This was actually restored in 1976. It was one of the very first endeavours by the forerunners of the Cotswold Canals Trust, and they did a magnificent job of clearing this section of the canal. Now, happy to report that this section of the King's Reach from Tarleton Bridge all the way up to the Coats Portal of the Sapperton Tunnel is currently in water, following the heavy rainfall we had over the winter period. We're now just edging into spring. We're now in February, so it feels very spring-like today, although slightly chilly. Very, very dry, so the towpath is dry. So what I'm going to do now is going to continue along the towpath. This is a section beyond Tarleton Bridge in the easterly direction we haven't done yet, and hopefully we'll be able to see the Coats Roundhouse and also a fascinating railway bridge that carried the Swindon to Gloucester line over the Thames Severn Canal. Now, this section of the Thames Severn Canal is completely dry, and one of the problems that the engineers of the TNS had was actually maintaining water inside of the canal bed because of the porous nature of the rock in this area, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on this update. Part of the section here was actually lined in concrete by Gloucestershire County Council in 1900 as a way of alleviating that. I think the reason the water isn't in here now is because there's no water supply, because the pumps were turned off way back in 1912 when I think the pump completely went kaput. And I'll tell you about those pumps as well, because it's quite an interesting story. But yes, this section here remains completely dry, and it's only because of that piece of wood that's holding the water in the section on the run up towards the Coats Portal of the Sapperton Tunnel. So this structure behind me here is the last of the 5 Thames Severn Canal roundhouses. Sadly, this one's in a state of disrepair. This is Coats Roundhouse. And we've seen the others. We've seen the ones at Chalford, Inglesham, Marston, Maisie and Cerney Wick. All of those have been restored or in a livable condition. This one sadly lost its roof. Now, it has an unusual roof. I think the other one that has the same roof is the one at Marston, Maisie, although that one was restored in the 1980s. This one has an inverted roof, so it's concave, and the purpose of that was to capture water. So we're here in a very remote part of the eastern section of Gloucestershire here. There's no other dwelling places here. There's no mains water, of course. It's just fields around it. And the lengthsmen that would have lived here to maintain this section of the Thames and Severn Canal needed their own water supply, and they had that from its roof. I've just taken a couple of shots from the inside, so though you can't actually get in, it is quite a dangerous building now. They have blocked up some of the windows and the main front entrance. You can still afford a look to get in, look inside it. You can see, in fact, you can actually see a banister rail that curves up the curve of the wall where the staircase would have been to get the people that lived here up until presumably the bedrooms on the upper story. But this is a fabulous monument, and it would be wonderful to see this restored along, of course, with this section of the Thames and Severn Canal. So this lock on the section of the Thames and Severn Canal marks the highest point, the altitude point, the pinnacle, if you like, of the Thames and Severn, following its long climb up towards the portal at Sapperton or Daneway, and then going through the tunnel, and then you have this one more gain in height to reach the highest point. And it was this point here that they had most trouble keeping the water inside the canal bed. I drop in the name of this canal here, and I think I've got a photograph taken in the early part of the 20th century showing that bridge, that famous railway bridge behind me here. So this remarkable bridge, this skew brickwork bridge, was built by the Great Western Railway as they completed their line from their wonderful railway town with all the workshops at Swindon, right to the heart of Gloucestershire, in Gloucester, of course, following the Golden Valley, should I say, through towards the town of Stroud. The nearest station to here is Kemble, and I visited that on one of my Cotswold walks if you want to check that one out. But yeah, this is an absolutely wonderful piece of brickwork here and engineering design. Obviously still ongoing maintenance by Network Rail to make sure it stays complete, and it just goes over the canal triumphantly, but possibly triumphantly because the railway engineers knew that they felt more superior to the people that owned the canals, trudging along at 2, 3, 4 miles an hour slowly, and they had their express trains running down towards Paddington in that direction there. Now, it's only when you stand under this magnificent railway bridge you can really appreciate the engineering and the brickwork skills that went into it, like that diamond pattern as it curves right round towards the apex of the arch. It's also got fantastic acoustics under here too, as a bonus. That's worth pointing out there. That's an old telegraph pole, which probably, I'm not actually sure if this was running alongside the Thames Severn Canal or whether it was running alongside the railway at this point and it's simply fallen off onto the embankment there above the canal. But that's a reminiscent of a long lost area long before the internet, of course. While I'm here in this quiet area next to the Coats Roundhouse, I just thought I'd tell you about a couple of exciting developments. Now, near Eastington, where I started the video and where we'll be going back to shortly, they have the Western Depot of the Cotswold Canals Trust, and that's where they do all of their work and where all of their vehicles and maintenance equipment is based. They also have an Eastern Depot. Now, that's currently being moved, in the process of being moved. It'll be relocated over the next few weeks. I'll put the details of where it is. Also, exciting news in the eastern section too is that there's going to be, oh, there's a train going over that bridge. The other exciting news to report is that they're going to open another bookshop. There's the main one in Brimscombe, where I did the piece earlier on by Brimscombe Port. You have one in Stonehouse and another one at Saul Junction, should I say, but they're going to open another one in the eastern section near the South Cerney. I think it's going to be near the visitor centres. I'll put the full details down. If I've got a date for that, I'll put that in there below, and we'll certainly be visiting that on a future canal update here on West Country Wanderings. But yes, so it would be a bookshop similar to the other ones that they have, so it would be books across a wide range of different genres, including books about canals and railways and history and walking, but also fiction. The other ones sell records and tapes and CDs and DVDs as well, and I think this one's going to be as well. So that looks a really exciting project there. There's also going to be a visitor centre there for people visiting the Thames and Severn Canal, so they can talk to the volunteers about the work, the exciting restoration work that's going to be taking place. Now, next to Coats Roundhouse, we're at the highest section, of course, of the Thames and Severn Canal, and of course they had lots of problems in keeping water into this, and what they designed was a series of pumps. And the first pump near Thames Head, it's a difficult place to film there. You have the pub there, the famous Thames Head Inn, but it's next to a very busy road, so it doesn't make good for filming there. But it was near that section, not that far from here. We will actually walk that way on a future canal update. They had a six-sided windmill, and in 1792, as technology progressed towards the end of the 18th century, they then got all super technical and brought in a Bolt and Watt engine, a real steam engine, to extract water from the wells in that area and to get them into this section of the Thames and Severn Canal. It was a single acting beam engine, similar to the types that have been used on collieries and certainly in tin mines in Cornwall. More about that in a second. Now, in 1833, after some 40 odd years of work, it was overhauled by a local Stroud engineer called John Ferraby. Later on, in 1854, an engine was brought up from Cornwall, actually from Liscar to be precise, at a place called Wheel Tramar, and that was installed there at Thames Head. Now, that engine that was brought up from Cornwall carried on working until 1912, at which point the TNS was starting to fall into disrepair and little use, and so it wasn't replaced, and the water in this canal then started gradually to dry up. I'm just going to include now a little photo montage. I was down near Ryford and Ryford Walk on the Stroudwater the other day with my camera, took some photographs there and include some information about some of the equipment that the Trust uses to restore and to dredge. There's lots of dredging work going on around there, so you'll see some of those in the photos, and I'll put some more captions up to explain the work that's taking place. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you back in a bit. Now, with the fabulous Coats Roundhouse behind me, I'm going to hand you back now to the latest developments down at that lock near Easington on the Stroudwater Canal. Now, right in the centre, almost in the centre of the picture there, is the western frontal portal of Westfield Bridge. Now, I'm currently standing in a direct line, so the original Stroudwater would have come down this way towards the camera, following this line of the hedge. Now, I haven't trespassed. There's actually a fence down here, so I've just come in this way. There's no construction works taking place here at the moment. Now, as far as I can tell, rather than coming directly towards the camera from Westfield Bridge, the canal is actually going to take a route diagonally outwards. You'll probably there be able to see some orange mesh fencing. And now it comes to here. I'm just going to stand where I think the canal is going to be on its new route towards the M5. So I think it's going to be here. You can now see Westfield Bridge unlocked just down that way, and it's going to make its way along here, and then it's going to curve in, like behind the camera, to make its way to that River Frome going underneath the M5. Now, from this angle, you can see just how much preparatory work has already been taking place on this fields near Westfield Lock. On this side, that's the eastern side of the M5. Really, it's quite a bit. I came down here a few weeks ago, and much work has taken place since then, as we're going into early 2023. And it'll be really exciting to bring you the developments of what's happening here over the next few weeks and months. So I hadn't originally planned to come here today to this bit, but I thought I got some new subscribers now, and you may not have seen my previous update video showing you where the River Frome goes underneath the M5. So this is it here. You can see there's already been some preparatory work taking place where they've been cutting some tree branches there. So our Stroudwater Canal will be coming down in a diagonal fashion across this field here and making its way underneath the M5 using the route of the River Frome too. The only problem with doing this choice, this was option B, is of course during times of heavy flood this river level rises, and it will mean, unfortunately, during heavy rainfall it will be impossible to be able to get a narrowboat underneath this bridge. The difference, or the problem of using the other option, the first option, option A, which is the cattle creep, is the fact that that is very narrow. It's just wide enough for a narrowboat, and I say really only just. No way would you be able to get a towpath under there as well. Now, I hope you can hear me above the traffic noise from the M5. But the other thing to point out at this point here is that just on the other side of the River Frome there is another underpass which is for a footpath. Now, I'm thinking that potentially using the towpath, it wouldn't be an effective towpath because of course it's isolated from what will be the canal, but that could be used as a footpath to follow it down here, to have it rerouted on the southern part of the River Frome, which will of course here, if you can imagine it, the Stroudwater will be cutting in diagonally across this field from behind me, joining up there and going underneath the M5 that way, and pedestrians, walkers can use the bridge on the other side. I'm not sure if there are plans to build a bridge over the Stroudwater hereabouts, or whether it means diversion through Easington and going across Pike Bridge, where we started today's video. If I get any more information on that, of course, I will bring it in a future update. Well, that's it for Cotswold Canals update number 12, the Stroudwater and Thames Severn Canals, of course. Here on West Country Wanderings, there'll be another update. I don't know whether to do number 13 or whether to jump 13 and go straight to 14. Anyway, we'll see. Maybe I'll call it 12A like I did when we were at the Ocean Bridge opened or something. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. It'll be landing on West Country Wanderings. To ensure you don't miss it, please subscribe to the channel and then hit the bell. And then YouTube will notify you when the next canal update, whether it be Cotswold Canals or other canals that I explore on my channel. I've recently done one on the Somerset Coal Canal. There'll be another one from that area. I'm about to do one on the Wilts and Berks, which will be number 2, 3 or 4, I can't remember. I think it's number 4, which will be coming from Abingdon-on-Thames in West Oxfordshire, so that'll be coming soon too. Of course, there's a connection between Wilts and Berks and the Cotswold Canals as well. Hope you enjoyed it today. Love to know what you think. If you've seen anything of the restoration work that's been taking place on the Stroudwater, love to hear from you too, so drop a comment below. You can also follow me on Facebook. If you tap into Facebook West Country Wanderings, request to join the group, and there you can share your own photographs of canals. You can also do railways, places in the West Country, this fabulous region that I cover here, right down to Cornwall and Devon. If you any holiday pictures you've taken of interesting places, beaches, castles, walks, nature, that type of thing, you can share them on there too. Till next time, take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and I hope to see you on the channel again very, very soon. All the best for now. Cheers. Goodbye.